patent application numbers, or the results of research, number of papers, or the number of citations of the papers. All these indicators actually are concentrated in several places in the world: North America, Europe, and plus East Asia and Asia Pacific region as a whole. And we are located in these regions. The number of papers and highly cited papers are the indicators where you can see some newcomers from Australia. So in order to grasp the trend of innovative cities and let them play a role in the clustering of innovation resources, we must understand these characteristics to promote the technological innovation cooperation in this region. Secondly, I would like to briefly talk about some of our working measures or some of our initial plannings or suggestions. President Xi Jinping made this important speech on August 20th. So following this speech, how are we going to further follow up to promote innovations using this platform of integrated development and to work for the region to become a driving force and an engine of future growth? So the National Ministry of Science and Technology recently are compiling this 1+N planning, and this is a framework which they called the Co-Alliance or Consortium of Innovation in the Yangtze River Delta. It was proposed that by 2035, we will establish a world-leading consortium or alliance of innovation. By 2025, these alliance would at least put in place some basic frameworks as well as functions. So as we can see here, there are some important principles. First of all, we must promote the cities in the Yangtze River Delta region, especially those with innovation resources, to work more closely and cooperate more closely. Now we can see that in the Shanghai, Hangzhou, Ningbo, Nanjing, Hefei, these are the most important cities which form a triangle plus an axis in this region, and this is what we call a city cluster of innovations, and these cities must cooperate and work more closely. Although the Yangtze River Delta region is all about cooperation among 3 provinces and 1 municipalities, but when it comes to innovation, those central cities and their cooperation and governance are even more important. We also put forward this second suggestion. We want to promote technology and infrastructure cluster development. In this region, the Zhangjiang Science and Technology Center and the Science Center in Hefei are already national level scientific facilities locations, and Nanjing, Hangzhou are also actively promoting the building and development of science facilities. So the major national level science facilities would be more deployed and located in our region is our goal in the next step. And the third suggestion is that we want to promote national level major science and technological innovation cooperation as well as breakthroughs. We have got national 2030 major projects of technology innovations. The brain and brain-like sciences, for example. I visited the Academy of Sciences, the Neurology Research Institute, academician Peng Luoming. I went to Fudan University for studies and research. All experts told us that brain science and brain-like sciences are where what the Yangtze River Delta is concentrating about half of the national resources. We have got the Neuroscience Research Institute, cloned monkeys of the Chinese Academy of Sciences is one of the most important research results. Fudan University, Zhejiang University, as well as the China Academy of Science universities, all these are leading players in brain sciences. So we need to let them form a team, actually, a national level team, in order to win over the national level major projects, to make breakthroughs, and for these projects to be located in our region. And we all have got this willingness as well as very good ideas. So given the current situation, we need to work together for better coordination. The fourth one is we need to develop the fortifying as well as consolidation of industrial chain. The 3 provinces and the one municipality all have got their respective plans, but maybe all these provinces and cities, when it comes to industrial cooperation, can have some cross-regional as well as cross-provincial collaboration. So the cycling of the industrial chain must be inside this region. The Jiangsu province has got a high concentration of industrial chain, but some of these industrial chain are also cross-provincial in nature. So we want to work for that together as well. The fourth suggestion we want to make is that we can establish a Yangtze River Delta National Technology Innovation Center to be coordinated by the Shanghai city with the support of the Ministry of Science and Technology. Vice Mayor Wu Qing of Shanghai is now working out a plan for that. So this is the Yangtze River Delta National Technology Innovation Center. It will be a national level innovation center, and it will serve as a very new platform through which all the technology innovation advantages of the region can be promoted, and we will have more commercialization of the research results. In this process, we can also see that given the current practice of the Yangtze River Delta in technology innovation, we do have got some strong points or advantages. For example, the Industrial Research Center of the Jiangsu province or the Research Institute is a very systematic platform for commercialization of research, and it is also serves like a hub, kind of innovation platform. A lot of research have been made. The Research Institute has been undergoing institutional reform. They have been trying to align with the innovation requirements of the enterprises. They also upgraded the evaluation ways. They also have got better support from the government to R&D. So a very innovative set of mechanisms and institutions have been put in place. What is also more important is that they look at all county-level localities in Jiangsu province and organize them together. So they really serve as a platform of coordination, pooling together the resources across the province for a better coordination. In the Yangtze River Delta region, in the Zhejiang province, what is interesting is that they have initiated this market trading of technology results. The technology market development is something that Zhejiang province is doing very well. So all these, of course, the city of Shanghai it has got the Zhangjiang Science and Technology Innovation Center, which also clusters quite a lot of high-end resources of innovation. And we also put forward the idea that in a digital economy era, we really need to enter into this new area as well. We have got a lot of leading players and companies in the region. We are now in a 5G era, in a 3G and 4G era. Facebook, Google, all these big companies actually seized opportunities from this transition from 3G to 4G. So for high-quality integrated development of Yangtze River Delta, we hope that in this transition or in the next 10 years of the time period, we will see the emergence of world-class large-scale companies. They can be hardware companies like Huawei. We hope that they would be able to develop from the Yangtze River Delta region. We hold high expectations for that because we really enjoy very sound environment as well as good opportunities. Last but not least, in conclusion, I would like to share with you 3 points. First of all, when it comes to innovation, which is our theme, technology and co-governance of innovation, 3 things are very important. The first one is that we need to not only look at the known areas, but also unknown areas. When we talk about cooperation, we are competing in known areas, which is very fierce cooperation. But in unknown areas, we need more cooperation and more resources. So we have to be aware of them. So we need to understand the theories. We must start with the basic research, which will lead to technologies, products, and industries. So there is huge potential to be unleashed here. Secondly, we need to make good use of our own advantages in science and technology innovation, and we must also make good use of other people's resources to serve my purpose. The city of Shenzhen, for example, this is a city which does not have got famous universities, but it has already become a star city of innovation. A very important reason for that is that it makes good use of the national resources, especially that of Zhongguancun. So I think that if a material we have got a paper who said that there is the closest link between Beijing and Shenzhen, closer than many other cities. So we need to be aware of other people's resources as well. The third piece of advice is that Party Secretary Li Qiang said we need to build our own small bucket of water. More importantly, we also need to build a big water bucket, because cooperation in science and technology needs complementarities among different localities. You cannot focus in your own regions. You cannot have got all the resources, all the factors that you need. Then it's repetitive work. So in integrated development, we need to build our own strength, but we must always have in mind a big picture to serve the national purpose and interests better. And we will also advocate fair technology, cooperation, and competition internationally. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Ran, would you please stay on the stage for a while? I would also like to ask you to take this opportunity to answer some questions. So, anyone from the audience who wants to interact or ask questions to Mr. Ran, please raise your hand. Mr. Ran, good morning. Just now you showed some important cities, Hefei, Nanjing, and Hangzhou, but I didn't see the city of Suzhou. But Suzhou has far outperformed neighboring cities in technology innovation. So why is that? Yes, I agree with you. I only listed the capital cities of provinces. Suzhou is near the city of Shanghai, so we regard it as our brothers or part of Shanghai. We also have got the G60 corridor of science and technology, and Suzhou is part of that. But I totally agree with you. We should have listed it on the slide. The Suzhou is a leading player in life science and biomedicines, and it wants to become a valley of medicine of China. Yes, it has got an important role to play. Thank you very much. Now we will allow for one more question. Please ask the speaker to use the mic. Is 5G technology developing very rapidly in the Yangtze River Delta Center? We know that Shanghai is doing very well in the 5G coverage. What about other cities and regions in the Yangtze River Delta region? Yes, in 2018, on June the 1st, the 3 provinces and 1 municipalities helped to promote the coordinated development of 5G. The World Conference on Telecommunication was held in Sweden, and 5G was a hot topic. And we worked with the Municipal Department of Economy and Informatization to pilot the coverage of 5G. We have got an action plan of 5G development, actually, which was incorporated in our 3-year action plan. We also planned the 3 operators plus 1 more companies, as well as plus 4 local governments and 4 centrally owned companies. All these have participated in a session and signed a MOU. All these 4 companies are committed that in the Yangtze River Delta region, they would build 5G infrastructures, and they will invest about 200 billion within 3 to 4 years. Now, as I see see it, not only Shanghai, but all across the Yangtze River Delta region. The new types of infrastructures are developing very rapidly. In the next step, as we deploy 5G, we will also promote the application of 5G. So in order to unleash the effectiveness and the capacity of the infrastructures, the Yangtze River Delta has got rich application scenarios for this. Once again, thank you very much, Ranqing, for your presentation.
Next speaker is Professor Wu Pujiang, who is the member of the Chinese Academy of Engineering. Let's welcome. Today, I'm going to talk about the joint development of 41 cities in the Yangtze River Delta and the mobilization of the global technological resources. In 1990s, we had a lot of research on competitiveness of the cities. And the technological innovation is a different and new dynamic dimension. If we rank the technological innovation in the world, we can see how the configuration or the pattern is. The top is very stable and the bottom is changing. And when we see the development and the growth of Shanghai and Hong Kong, we can see the gap and the future direction for us. And for Beijing, it's not so good because the technological competitiveness is not so high and is dropping because of the flow out of the technological talent. We have to see the situation. We have technological clusters in the world, and we need to have such clusters. Without such clusters, you cannot succeed by your own in the world, because it is impossible for one individual city to succeed in the world. So I use the word creative global regions, or CGR, and these CGRs are the centers of the technological resources in the world. There are 9 CGRs in the world, which determines or dominates the technological innovations in the world. And let's go back to the Yangtze River Delta region. In 1999 and 2000, I supervised a study conducted by one of my students, and he compared the most competitive 22 cities in the world. And he studied the key success factors behind the success of those CGRs. What are the key success factors behind these regions? I think the answers are very interesting and useful for us even today. And this student of mine is now the professor of the South China Technological University. The region in the world with the highest number of the patents in the world has a very high positive correlation with the environment of that region. That is the most clever or the smartest people in the world are very sensitive to the working environment in that place. What does that mean? For example, if I'm a smart guy, I want to live in a very good and green environment. If that environment is not good for his house, he will leave. tomorrow immediately because he has the capacity to move to any places in the world. And I compared the PM 2.5 numbers of all the cities in the Yangtze River Delta from the north to the south. And I also compared the per capita GDP, the per capita number of patents of those cities. And I found that there is a high negative correlation of PM 2.5 and the per capita GDP and then the technological innovation. The north cities in the Yangtze River Delta regions, their PM 2.5 are 3 times of that in the south. Shenzhen, for example, has a very good air quality. So for Beijing, if they want to retain the smartest people in our country, they need to improve their natural environment. If you have a very good environment, you can retain those people. If you do not have a good environment, people will leave. So the smartest brain will follow the best environment in the world. And this is the founding of the research many years ago by my student. So that's why we need to save the best place with the best environment to those most innovative talent in the world. This is a very important factor or foundation for us to improve our ecological environment. It's not just for fun. For our leaders and policymakers, if you have a very good natural environment, you can easily retain the cleverest or smartest people in the world. And this is our research findings. And these are our reports and suggestions submitted to Party Secretary Li Chang of Shanghai. We suggest that we should mobilize all the resources in the Yangtze River Delta region, and this is the coordinated innovative center proposed by us. And we signed a cooperative agreement with the mayors of 31 cities in the Yangtze River Delta region, and we collect all the data and jointly analyze the data. Party Secretary Li Chang was very surprised to see that because he used to work in Zhejiang province and then he moved to Shanghai. And since 2012, we have been committed to the integrated development of Yangtze River Delta region. This is also aligned with what Mr. Ran Qing said just now.
还有第4阶段，因为这个事情一直往前走。我的长久的观点呢，就是长三角的破解的题目呢，就是2个字，一个是
Two keywords are important for the Yangtze River Delta region. First is intelligence, and second is coordination and cooperation.
不仅仅是必须在他们老是说这个前2年，2年以前还在说断头路的时候，我就写了这段话给他们。
I wrote this paragraph. Based on the existing infrastructure, the Yangtze River Delta region must improve the integration of scientific and technological development. These are what I spoke last year. So I will not go into details today. There are several challenges for us now. While the integrated development of Yangtze River Delta region is the national strategy, however, there is no coordination mechanism for the development of CGR. Well, actually, many places are doing better than the Yangtze River Delta region in terms of coordination. And second, we see a spontaneous flow of technological resources in this region. In the last decade, we have seen the growth of the number of patents by threefolds across the cities and provinces in the Yangtze River Delta region. The other place in the world which has such a growth of the patent numbers is in the east coast of United States. So that's why we've already seen so much spontaneous scientific and technological flow of technological cooperation. But we are lack of scientific evaluation of those kind of coordination. Third challenge, we are lack of the mobile allocation of the resources. As I have said, we need CGRs. So how can we address these challenges? First, we need the allocation of the resources, but we need to allocate these resources based on 5 factors, that is, talent, infrastructure, fund, and infrastructure. And based on that, we can have the result of the core competitiveness of each city. I studied this many years ago, and I proposed this theory in 2020. Each city is like a bucket, and this bucket is consisting of 130 parts, and finally we screen 12 key or crucial parts out of this 130. And finally, I think 6 key parts are most important for the innovative competitiveness or capacity of a city. The first is R&D. It is correlated to the innovative index of a city. Second is GDP, and it is also positively related to the innovation of a city. And the third is the number of the university students. Well, actually, the number of the students in universities in Nanjing is higher than that in Shanghai. So it's a big pity for Shanghai, but many Shanghai officials are not aware of that. And fourth is the number of young people who start up their businesses. Hangzhou, Shenzhen, and Chengdu are the 3 cities with the highest numbers of young entrepreneurs. It totally changed China, and the 5th component is per capita GDP. It is impossible to have innovation in the poor area. And the 6th factor is indispensable here. That is the catering places or the restaurants for the entrepreneurs. They like food, they like eating. Actually, I have conducted a lot of research. I thought that this factor was irrelevant. But finally, from all kinds of my research, I found that all young entrepreneurs like eating. So this part is really very important. That is the leisure, the cultural environment, restaurants. Without food, without good food, there will be no top researchers, entrepreneurs, and scientists in that place. And then, by analyzing these 6 factors, or case 6, as I said, we screen case 6 from all those indicators, and I have made models of analysis, and we have upgraded our model to the 4th version, and through our analysis model, we can simply find the rank of that city in the world in terms of scientific innovation and their weaknesses. As I have said, we select or screen these 6 factors from numerous factors, and these are the most crucial 6 factors. And then we can analyze the contribution of these 6 factors of each city, and we can see the interaction of these key factors and how they achieve a synergy. For example, per capita GDP is positively correlated with 4 key factors out of 6, and also improving the number of university students and improving the cultural and leisure environment will contribute to the number of young entrepreneurs. We have analyzed the interactions of these 6 factors, and we also analyze the cities in the Yangtze River Delta region according to these 6 factors, and you can see the different lines of different colors in this chart, and you can see how competitive of each city in this region. Suzhou actually is more innovative than Shanghai. Who asked the question about Suzhou just now? Well, you are from Suzhou, I think. Am I right? Oh, you are from Pujiang province. But you have a good global vision. This is the line of Suzhou, and it is way higher than Shanghai in terms of its innovation. When did it start? Actually, many years ago, it became more competitive or innovative than Shanghai. The red line represents Shanghai. This is the period when Party Secretary Li Qiang came, and in that year, we surpassed Suzhou, and then we lag behind Suzhou again. In 2012, many cities, or 4 cities, surpassed Shanghai in terms of innovation. Shanghai was sleeping at that time. Generally speaking, Shanghai, the line is growing, and finally we rank the 2nd. We ranked the 1st in one individual year. But what is fortunate is that this line is growing, but we can see that all the other lines representing other cities also have upward slope. Some cities develop innovation capacity. Many years ago, Shanghai is still in the leading group in this region. However, the gap between other cities is narrowing. So, as I've said, we've done a lot of analysis of K6 factors. And these are our analysis of the 41 cities in the Yangtze River Delta region. Some cities have a very low efficiency and scale of innovation, so that's why I propose my theory. That is, we need to analyze the weaknesses of each city, because the weakness determines the capacity of innovation of that city. And for those cities, if it cannot address its weakness, its strength is useless. So it needs to allocate those advantages or give those advantages to other cities which need those strengths. By doing so, it can help the development of other cities. And by iteration like that, by 250 times, the Yangtze River Delta region will have leap and frog development. These are the analysis of these 6 key factors. For example, the number of the students in university. For example, in Xi'an city has a great number of university students, but this factor is useless to Xi'an because Xi'an has weaknesses in other 5 dimensions. So it needs to give these resources to, or allocate this resource, abundant resource, to other cities. Since 2009, we can also see Shanghai, Jinhua, Wuxi, Changzhou have rich or abundant cultural and leisure resources, and other cities are lack of restaurants and cultural and leisure facilities. Officials in that place, in those cities, were not aware of the importance of this kind of resources. New ideas, new proposals, new research, the initial concept of new research always come from restaurants. So I always suggest to local officials that they need to develop these cultural and leisure and catering facilities to attract talent. This is more powerful than 100 policies. It's quite simple. And we've done analysis of each 6 dimension, and these are the numbers or the results of these K6 factors, and we can see the weaknesses and the strengths of each cities and in which dimension they have abundant resources or redundant resources. And based on such analysis, we can have a better allocation of resources of each dimension. By doing so, we can better unleash the potential of innovation of each city, and This is the model that we develop, and we are constantly update our model of analysis. We have total UII as an indicator, urban creation index or innovation index. And after the allocation of the redundant resources, according to my model, the UII number can increase from 622.6 to 720.5%, an increase of 15.7% with the same resources. So through reallocation of resources, we can have such great improvement. Our objective is quite clear. We want to promote our theory to the rest of the world because many places in the world have abundant resources of the number of universities or the number of the cultural and catering facilities. I hope that we can have more innovative regions in the world. That's the end of my report. Thank you. Please stay on the stage for the Q&A session. Thank you for your wonderful speech. Any questions from the floor? Please use the microphone. You talk about innovative effectiveness. We believe that innovation will drive economic growth. But in China, we see the great imbalance of economic growth. Are there any paradox or contradictions between economic growth and innovation in China? Well, your question is too long. Can you replace China, the word of China, by the word of world? The relation between the concentration of innovative resources and uneven or imbalanced economic growth in the world. Okay, very good question. Would you please repeat your question once again? If you replace the word of China by world, you can answer your question by your own. The concentration, the relation between concentration of the innovative resources and imbalanced world development. Do you think the innovation will make imbalance even worse? Of course. Of course, innovation will lead to a worse imbalance. This is a trend. It is impossible to have even a development or balanced development. Because we can see growing gap or larger gap between the innovative people and people with no innovation. Second question or next question. It is impossible to have balanced development in the world. Professor Wu? The previous speaker also mentioned that in the city center in Shanghai, we will have high-tech and light industries, and those heavy industries and industries with low added value will be removed to other places in the Yangtze River Delta region. Is that true? Second, about innovation. While many innovations with commercial value and market value will be kept as a secret before it is patented, because the owner or the company with those innovation want to make money, because the duration of patent is only 20 years or 10 years long. And if you make it public, it will be stolen by other people. Only 2 questions for the interest of time.
Michaela, it's so interesting. The question is that time 20 years ago when I come back to China， 他有翻译的是吧？好好好。20年以前我回国的时候，那时候我们问的都是另外的问题。
We
你们意
asked
大利
different
人呢，
questions.
这个把这个
For
地附加
example,
值的呢，有污染的都放到
Italy
中国来呢。
remove its low added value industries to China and other developing countries. Now we have similar questions, but different places. That is, Shanghai remove its low added value industries to other surrounding places in Yangtze River Delta region. Now, in 20 years, you can ask a different question. For example, Nanchang remove its low added value industries to other countries, for example, Namibia. This is quite natural in the world. For example, many people are unemployed and the job opportunities have been stolen. This is the natural trend or wave in the world. We experience different waves like that in different places. But we have to be aware which make our people happy in the long run. Many people are not aware of that. What can we make our people live happily in the long run? I always think about this question. I can say that in 200 years, when we look back, people will see, the future generations will find that our generation, this generation, has lived in many small towns and cities. It's just like us. When we look back, we see the small ancient cities left by our ancient generations. The entire population in the world is flowing. People are flowing to the most innovative cities. Many places which are with no innovation will be left behind. And you will see many heritages or the cities left behind by people in the world. And you will see more and more concentration of innovative people or talent in the world. It's inevitable, and you will see greater imbalance of development in the world. It's not a question of good or bad. It's a question of yes or no, or it's a question of to be or should be. First of all, we need to know the answer of to be, and then we talk about the question of should be. Well, just now I talked about the law of global development. We have to know the reality first, and then we can see how a world, we can talk about how a world should be looked like. Well, the reality always happen, and your dreams always not happen. Okay, that's the end of my Q&A session. Thank you very much for your questions.
Thank you, Professor Wu, for your wonderful presentation.
Now we would like to invite Mr. Michael Gerasi, to give us speech. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. 谢谢刚才
I would like to thank Mr. Ran and Professor Wu for their wonderful presentations. I really learned a lot of new knowledge and insights from your presentations. I'm also very glad to come to meet Vice Mayor Ma and the Director General Dong, as well as Professor Huo. Today, I would like to talk about the cooperation between China and Europe. I don't want to steal the thunder of the interpreter, so I'm going to make the presentation in English.
I will give you a talk that reflects a little bit my position in between government, which was my former job, and professor, researcher on economy, which is my current occupation. We always talk about the fourth technology revolution, and we try to see how this new technology revolution compares to the previous 1, 2, 3 that we've seen over the last decades and centuries. But I do strongly believe that this time, this fourth tech revolution is very different from the other ones for 3 main reasons. The first one, it's faster than before. Now, fast does not just mean faster. It means that it adds a non-linearity, a point of inflection, because the old revolution would take longer, and it would give people time to adapt to the new requirements. Maybe it would take also more than 1 generation to fully develop. So the adaptation process was between maybe the fathers and the children over a period of 2, 3 decades. This time the speed is so short that it requires individuals to change their own work attitude, their own competencies. And that, of course, creates major problem and displacement. And the older is the age of the people affected, the more difficult it is to change a job, because if you are 45, 50 years old, it's going to be very hard to readapt to these new challenges that we have seen. The second point is that new technology is coming, as I've seen today and all my years in China, it's coming from Asia. So it's coming from China mostly, and this is also different from what we have seen in the past. Before, it was the UK, it was the US, it was within a certain world, and this is for the first time, really the big impact is coming from the East. And so Europe needs to adapt. The world, the West needs to adapt to that. And the third point, which is different, is that and this is a challenge for China itself, that while China is leading in many areas in technology development, unlike the US, that was also leading the technology development, but was made up by people whose income per capita was very high, in the case of China, we have a contradiction. We have the most advanced technology companies in China, almost the biggest economy in the world, China, made up by people whose income per capita is still very low. And so we have a domestic conflict that, on one hand, puts pressure on the Chinese leadership to look after the average Chinese citizen, and at the same time, the international pressure that pushes China to play a more active role that probably Chinese leaders don't really want to do because they're more occupied with domestic issues. The good news is that at international level, both China and Europe, I think we share not just a goal, but a path of implementation, which is based on 2 pillars, green and digitalization. And this is really the new deals put forward by the European Commission, by other European countries, because we are realizing that the way forward for Europe is technology improvement, and it needs to be done on one hand on the digitalization of our societies, and on the other one by green, because one is a macro global necessity, and the other one is more of a micro one. You know, GDP grows for 4 reasons. It grows when number of people increase, when the land increase, when the capital increase, so the 3 components, and then the 4th one is innovation, technology, efficiency, factor productivity, whatever we want to call it. In Europe, we cannot grow land, we cannot grow people. In fact, we have problem of demographic. We cannot grow investment because we have constraints on financing. You know, we have common currency, so the process of investment is very difficult for individual countries. So the only chance that we do have is to push along the path of innovation, digitalization, and green. And this is why we do have set up the EU-China Clean Energy Center, which is one of these activities that aims at bridging and does cooperation between Italy and China, and Europe and China, I should say, but Italy is the leader of this consortium. So it is both a European-Chinese project where I'm proud to say Italy also takes a leading role. The Belt and Road, as you know, I was one of the main promoters of Italy joining this project. And when we joined the project, when we say Itai-Ilu, we said it's not just Itai-Ilu. So it's not just the sea and land. So we proposed to the Chinese government to add more layers. So it's not just 2, but it's a few more. We added the layer of technology and scientific exchange, the one of cultural cooperation, and recently we have seen responses that from the Chinese side that the Belt and Road is also the Belt and Road of health as a response to the recent crisis. So I think of the Belt and Road not just as something that transfers containers from the ports here in this area, from Ningbo, from Shanghai, into the Mediterranean or to Rotterdam, but it is also a road of knowledge, because our 2 worlds face a big challenge. And I say this as a researcher. We do not know each other very well. We need to increase reciprocal understanding, knowledge, and this is why we can only do that by continuing the exchange at the level of people to people, researchers, university, students. I'll give you an example. In this COVID crisis, you see government fighting with each other on whose vaccine is best, who can do better at solving, while below, the cooperation among scientists is very open, and the cooperation at university level is still very open. So it is on people that falls the burden of filling the gap where sometimes government interests are conflicting. And we hope then the push from the bottom also helps government to smooth any potential differences. In this area, of course, one of the cooperation that we want to push forward is the cooperation on the port industries. For me, in my mind, the Belt and Road is not just a continuation of what was in the ancient times, but it's a natural development that would not only affect China and Europe, but everything which is in the middle. And I think we also have not just an economic goal, but also an ethical objective to make sure that some countries in Asia, and more important in Africa, do develop. This is good for us in Europe because we can make money out of this joint cooperation between Europe and China, and also it turns Africa into a sustainable, from a social and economic point of view, sustainable continent. And so I know we need what the NGO call it a double bottom approach. You do help people, you do a bit of charity, but you also have to make money. And this creates a stability mechanism to go forward. And so what best place than these developing areas to cooperate on this area of technology, digitalization, telecommunications, artificial intelligence, and so on that China is so good at, and where Europe can actually contribute with our own know-how, our own good knowledge of the neighboring Mediterranean countries. So I think it's a nice cooperation between Europe and China, where China puts a little bit of its know-how, a little bit of capital, and we do our own bits. Now, my advice, how to make this theoretical cooperation work in practice. We need to do two types of approaches, macro and micro projects. So I go back to what I said at the beginning. Project between Europe and China on the green economy, the investment in renewable, away from fossils, solar, and so on, is what I call it a macro level, which is, has long-term objectives, and maybe people understand it, but not so much. They don't see the immediate benefit. So let's put this on the macro box, where governments needs to take the lead and push this down to the people, force them to see and understand. And on the other hand, there are micro projects where people do see the benefits every day. And this is what would make them understand that this project do work, because they do see the benefits. So for example, smart cities is one of them. Just make sure that people do change the way that they live and they see impact on their daily life. I think, and I conclude with two more remarks. The West needs to learn a little bit more from the development that we have seen here in China. I think we need to be a little, let's say this, we need to be a bit more humble. We need to confront ourselves with the rise of the Asian economy and the shift of economy to Asia. You know, I talk to my friends in the Italian government. We don't have to like it. It is as it is. So we need to accept it and make the best for a common interest. I want to give you a task to all of you. I cannot suggest a specific project. You guys are the experts. You know all the skills and competitive of each of the industrial clusters in the regions. So please do tell me, not now, but in the next few days and weeks, what specific project we could do in terms of cooperation. And I'll take the responsibility to deliver that to our Italian and European friends, both the academic community, universities, and government layers. Thank you very much. 谢谢大家.
Thank you very much. Wait a moment, yeah. Would you like to raise questions for Michael Gerasi? 这个不要紧的，这个中文、英文都可以。
It's okay, you can ask questions both in Chinese and English. We have got simultaneous interpretation.
可以。
Okay, Professor. Thank you for speaking. And you're asking us that maybe what programs we can tell you that you can take it back to Italy. I think that if you know, more Chinese tourists could come to Italy for travel or for communication, and we will.
现在没有飞机，没有航班，
Yeah.
都不飞。
not in the COVID-19 this time, but in the future, I think
yes.
if we have more, more common people, we can communicate more and more. And I think the creation of the something like scientists or something like high-level people, I think it will inspire the creation. And like the Professor Wu said that the communication inspires the creation. So I think it will be better. So How do you think that?
No, if you're asking me, would I like to have more Chinese tourists to Italy?
Yeah.
The answer is yes, for many reasons. First, because it does help, as I said, the reciprocal learning. So when Chinese tourists come to Italy, Italian society does not need to come to China to know a little bit more about Chinese. This is what happened. I tell you, I came in China during the Olympics in Beijing, and I think, you can tell me if I'm wrong, that was on August the 8th, 2008. It was the day with the highest number of foreigners were in China for the first time in 5,000 years of history. Maybe I'm wrong, but I felt that that was a big number, and this gave the average Beijingers that maybe didn't have a chance to go to America, to Africa, to see this mix of community. And this has increased and also helped to change a little bit of perception that some of the citizens in Beijing had about certain foreigners. So from the point of view of knowledge, of course, tourism is very good. And of course, as I said, the double bottom approach it also is good for money. Tourism in Italy is about 15% of the economy, roughly 240 billion, and half of it comes from foreigners, and many of these foreigners used to be American, Japanese, and now of course there are Chinese that buy beautiful Italian Xi Jinping. And so this is also an effect on the fashion industry, on the luxury goods. So welcome, and we do hope, and in fact, I tell you, the other cooperation that we wanted to do on the Belt and Road was also cooperation on the airline industry. So we were trying to have joint ventures between a Chinese airline and Italian airlines as a carrier to bring more Chinese tourists into Italy, because we have about 55 slots a week for China and 55 from Italy. The Chinese ones are all filled by Dongfang, Hong Kong, and Wuhan. And on the Italian side, we only have very few. So there's lots of room in terms of airspace. And so this is, we need to push tourism, but we need to bring the tourists to Italy. So we hope that after this pandemic is over, we don't know when. Yesterday, Professor Zhang Wenhong was telling us maybe a few months. I don't know how long do we think? How long? Yes. So we are very optimistic that we just have to, rain this winter, and then it will be better.
For normal people, we hope that it will be easy and a low price, so we can make it easy to come to Italy and to communicate. Thank you.
This is the good time to come. We have half of the hotels empty.
还有一个机会，还有一个提问的机会。
Hi, Professor. Thank you very much for your speech. At the beginning, you mentioned that in the fourth technology revolution, China and some other Asian countries taking the leading role. But my understanding, maybe in the area of the application of some technology, China has competitive edge. But I don't think in the case of the key technology, fundamental technology, China has advantage. Because otherwise, the trade war won't happen. And Huawei or Zhongxin, these companies, they won't have the hard time.
You're right. So there is a problem with China technology in that the thing is China has maybe found itself in trouble because the reliance on the whole global value chain suppliers. So now if a Taiwanese semiconductor company cannot sell components to Huawei, Huawei may be in a little bit of trouble. And you're right, there is too much reliance on some of these basic. For example, the manufacturing of semiconductor is very, very high tech, and China has not reached world standard, so still relies on imports. So in February, if you look at the statistic of semiconductor imports, it was like last year flat, February, March, 10 times. So I think China anticipated a little bit of the problem back in February by stocking a lot of semiconductors from the US. If you look at the trades value, you will see that there is a big jump. But now, this only gives a little bit of breathing space to delay the problem. In the meantime, I think that's what I would do, invest in research so that China does develop its own things. China can gain knowledge in 3 ways, not just China, every country. Either you do M&A of a company, so you buy a company, and this cannot be done anymore. Either you buy the product, and this is like half and half, you cannot do anymore as before. Third, you don't need to buy, but you can hire people. So you can hire talent. This is why from Sohar in Xi'an, you have flights that fly from Seoul, from Korea to the Samsung. And tell me if it's true. I know that maybe someone is from Xi'an, the Chinese local government also build churches for the people from Korea that want to work in Xi'an, and they do Monday, Friday, back and forth, so that they feel a little bit more at home. So this is the third axis on which China can accelerate the development of talent, given that M&A cannot be done, components cannot be purchased. You get talents, you pay them, and people will come for a lot of money, engineers, technicians, from not just from Samsung, but from other companies. And in the meantime, you wait and you try to, let's say, compress time. You hope that this trade friction will be compensated by this buffer of stocks and by accelerating investment. But the thing is that this, in my view, is a short-term pain. Because if China succeeds at overcoming this mountain, from then on, there will be nothing stopping it. So I think the government and all China Inc. needs to support maybe some of those companies that can find themselves into temporary difficulties, maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years. And that's why I also tell our American friends, be careful that when we do in the West export restrictions, the main effect is to push China to accelerate its domestic development. This has happened with NVIDIA, with the supercomputers, with the big, astronomical observer that you have in Guizhou, which is now bigger than the Arecibo in Puerto Rico, with quantum physics, quantum computing, with the probe to Mars. So when China is pushed because it cannot buy, it makes, and you accelerate things faster.
Okay, thank you very much. Then maybe we will tell Huawei they can hire the high-tech people from Korea.
Or from Italy. No, by the way, sorry.
It's your suggestion.
We have also very good engineers that would be very happy to make money and come to work here in China.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
谢谢。下边我们有请这个陕西省西安市副市长马先平给我们做报告，大家欢迎。
Deputy Mayor of Xi'an City.
各位嘉宾朋友们，大家
Distinguished guests, dear friends, good morning.
今天的浦江论
It
坛
gives me great pleasure to be here at this forum on urban and regional
三个
development.
非常好的报告。
We've heard 3 excellent
也使西安呢
speeches.
在从中呢，受到了很大的启发。
I've also
那么
learned
今
a
天在这里
lot
呢，我
from
把
the previous
西安
3
市的
speakers.
有关在
Today,
创新创业
I
方面
would
的做
like
法，
to talk
和大
about
家一起分享交流一下。首先
Xi'an's
呢，还是
practices
让我来介绍
in
一下西安。
innovation.
看一个短片。
First, a short video about Xi'an City. Xi'an is a city with 1,000 years of history, and welcome to Xi'an. And this video described the vision which is aligned with Professor Wu. Well, we have a food street in this video, and this is also a very good place for the young entrepreneurs. So welcome to Xi'an. Xi'an is the center city of Shanxi province and a very important city on the Silk Road. In the strategy of the Western development, Xi'an is a very important bridgehead, and we are home to over 20 experimental projects of China, and we are also an AI test city approved by the Science and Technology Ministry of China, and Xi'an also has historical link with Shanghai, and Xi'an Jiaotong University is also the predecessor of the Jiaotong University of Shanghai. So Xi'an has abundant teaching and education resources. We have the universities and colleges which rank the top in China, and we also rank the top 3 in terms of the number of research institutes. And in 2010, we proposed the strategy or concept of key and core technology, and we think that key and core technology should be the basis of our technological development, and we support the key and core technology R&D and its commercialization, and also the development of the core technology enterprise, and finally develop the industry of key and core technology. And this is Xi'an city government has done. We have focused on these 4 aspects. First, supporting the R&D of key and core technology. First, we stimulate the innovation vitality of the researchers and scientists. We invite research institutes and universities to be involved in big scientific projects, and these projects will get the full support of the city government. For scientists and researchers, we have stimulus or the motivation packages, and we also grant ownership or long-term right of use of those big innovations to the inventors of those technologies. Second, we strengthen the construction of a platform of innovation for core technology. We have 3 big science facilities. The supercomputing center are now being constructed, and we are also strive for 2 other facilities, and we also support well-known technologies and universities to set up R&D centers. Xi'an Center, a city government, also gave 30 million RMB yuan as a reward at most to those universities and enterprises. And we also hope that you can help us promote these provincial policies so that we can attract more talent. And third, we support the R&D investment of enterprises or companies. For companies with an R&D budget of over 5 million, we will have subsidy, and also we have a reward and subsidy to important innovation projects. And fourth, we strengthen the introduction of high-level, high-caliber talent. we set up a talent development fund of 500 million RMB yuan. We fully support the introduction of talent from home and abroad by giving housing and education and other support. For example, we have the full refund of income tax. Second part is the commercialization of core technology. First, we promote the technology and transfer marketization services. We set up we explore the service model of achievement screening, incubation, transformation for technical managers. This is the service model that we are exploring, and we have already identified and appointed some technical managers and transfer agencies, and we allocate a fund, dedicated fund, to support those technical managers and agencies. Second, we encourage local transformation and commercialization of these technology research, and we give the cash and stock options. And we also support universities and development zones to set up a demonstration zone for the transfer and the commercialization of those research. And we also provide 5 million yuan as a reward for the transfer and the commercialization, and even 10 million RMB yuan as a support, as a reward for a bigger amount of transfer. And third, we strengthen the financial support for the transfer and the commercialization. We guide or attract universities, research institutes, and angel fund or investors to be involved, and for early startups. Based on the investment analysis, we also give some subsidy. And third, we cultivate key and core technology companies. First, we have a classified or multi-tiered system for the cultivation. We have a bank or reservoir of those companies, and we also appoint people to support the development of those companies. For the companies identified by the national ministry, we have strong support, and we also earmarked fund for those companies of different types. And also we support the IPO of those companies. First of all, we have issued the policies of Science and Technology Innovation Board support to accelerate those companies, and we give 3.7 million yuan of to those people who have to companies who have IPO on this capital market. And now Shanghai Stock Exchange have launched its support center for companies who have intention to be launched on the STAR market in Shanghai. And also, we optimize the incubation capacity. We have established the incubators and set up a system for the allocation of incubation resources across China, and based on the number of companies incubated and number of patents, every year we have a subsidy of 500,000 yuan. And we also have subsidies for other projects by the universities and research centers who have been included in our incubation system. And also, we explore the practice of core and key technology. For example, we have promulgated 25 policies and 22 supporting policies to support the development of key and core technology industry, and also in the new material, aerospace, and biotechnology, and other 3 areas, we have dedicated promotion activities, and 3 we give 5% or 5 per 1,000 of the total investment as a subsidy for companies who can be successfully developed within 3 years. And also, we strengthen the synergy between companies in the industry. We encourage the mutual support of companies of different size. We also encourage the use of local produced products, and also we provide 2% of subsidy or 2 million yuan of subsidy to companies who have used the local produced products with the total amount of 10 million yuan. In 2019, the total investment in R&D accounts for 5.17%, ranked the 2nd in China, and we have the invention of over 9,000, an increase of 12%, and we have the total number or amount of 136 billion yuan of the transaction of technological contract, ranked the 1st in China, and we have the investment growth in emerging industry and high-tech industry by 11% and 23.9% this year. We accelerate the commercialization of our research. However, we still have a lot of weaknesses in these areas. We are the province of honor of Pujiang Innovation Forum, and we hope that we can share resources and have a common development with the Yangtze River Delta region. And I have 3 proposals. First, we need to strive for coordinated or collaborative innovation based on the industrial basis and the research of key technologies. We need to have collaborative resources and sharing of resources. The universities and the science parks need to work with each other and participated in joint science projects so that we can have a coordinated and a collaborative innovation system, so that we can have a number of breakthroughs in key areas. Second proposal, strengthen the coordinated industrial development. We should focus on the mutual support of innovation and support the development of alliance of key and core technology and industry, and so that we can have a big circulation, industrial circulation between Xi'an and the Yangtze River Delta region with the support of the whole industrial chain and the supporting chains. And third is international cooperation. Based on the big market of the Yangtze River Delta region and the technological strengths of Xi'an, we should set up several offshore innovation centers so that we can have a sharing in the area of information, technology transfer, IP, and the technological fundraising. Ladies and gentlemen, this logo is the logo of a company in Xi'an, and I visited this place with the national leaders, and the founder of that company said that the two fishes here represents two semiconductors semiconductor producers in China, and the water is the business environment created by the government. And these two fish have cooperation and common development with the support of the government. And Xi'an government is committed to provide a bigger pool with cleaner water for the fishes. In this pool, we can see a healthy development of different factors. Professor Wu also said that natural environment is really important. We hope that we can retain talent with a better environment. The environment includes business environment and ecological environment. Let's work together for a better Xi'an. Ancient city, welcome to Xi'an is my summary remarks. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Madam Ma, I'm an EMBA student from Tongji University, and I'm also from Xi'an. You also said the talent advantage, the environment and provincial policies of Xi'an. You are in charge of the technology development of Xi'an. You also pay a lot of attention to the technology development in Xi'an. Xi'an is the host city of innovation conference for 4 years in a row. So what message do you want to deliver, and what are the characteristics or theme of the innovation conference this year? Very long question. I feel so happy to see you, who is also from Xi'an. We are the host city of the Global Innovation Conference for 4 years in a row, and these conferences achieved different results with different characteristics. The conference this year has new development. In November last year, President Xi Jinping said in Shanghai that China would like to have IPO of more companies with key and core technologies, and this is a big encouragement for us. We want to leverage our education resources to develop and cultivate stronger and more competitive companies of key and core technologies. So the conference this year focused on how to grow the industry stronger and bigger, and we've received support from the Ministry of Science and Technology of China. In terms of characteristics, I think four characteristics. First, this conference covered a wide range of topics. we had seminars of different topics, and Shanghai Stock Exchange also hosted a workshop or seminar on IPO of companies in stock market, and also CCTV had a program there. So the agenda is very rich for this year's conference. And second, this conference focused more on industrial development, and the participants proposed many suggestions and launched their research findings on the conference. And we also see the birth of a number of projects. And third, we have also learned or gained a lot from this conference. For example, the Shanghai Stock Exchange launched its service center in Xi'an on this conference, and Xi'an also had or launched its program or plan to cultivate more. To develop more to cultivate more IPOs of companies of key and core technologies. So this conference is really very important for the technological development of Xi'an City. Whether a conference is successful or not depends on its results. Key and core technology are the drivers of the Xi'an City. The government pay a lot of attention to 4 aspects, as I have mentioned in my presentation. And in these 4 aspects, we will try our best to provide a sound business environment with preferential policies. Today, we hope that we can deliver more messages through this conference, through this forum, so that we can develop a big pool for the fishes for the different and diverse factors. Thank you, Madam Ma.
Thank you, Madam Ma. Xi'an was actually the city of honor for this year's forum. So maybe we can ask Professor Wu to calculate the 6 indicators for city's development for your city. So the next speaker is Mr. Dong Baotong, Director General of Science and Technology Department of Yunnan Province. Mr. Dong, you have the floor. Good morning, everyone. This is a really very open-minded forum. We have got representatives from Shanghai, from Xi'an, Italy, and I'm from Yunnan Province. I would like to share with you science and technology innovation of Yunnan from 3 aspects. Yunnan, as you all know, is a very popular tourist destination. It has got 48 million people, 26 ethnic groups. 15 are municipal level ethnic groups. We border Vietnam, Laos, and Myanmar. In 2015, President Xi Jinping visited Yunnan and pushed for rapid development of the province during the 13th five-year program period. Over the past 5 years, we have promoted rapid economic development. In 2015, our GDP ranked the 23rd place in the world, and it jumped to 18th position in 2019. In the first 9 months of this year, our growth was 2 percentage points higher than the national average. It's possible that we can jump several positions higher this year. Technology played a very important role. Our R&D investment in 2015 was 10.94 billion, and it rose to 22 billion in 2019, ranking the 19th in the whole country. These are some of the most important indicators. Since the theme is about urban and regional collaboration, so I would like to share with you some of my personal thoughts. I looked at last year's economic numbers. The 5 provinces in northwest of China's economy was larger than the 3 provinces in the northern region of China, the Xinjiang, Qinghai. Except for Shanxi, our economy are not that large. But in the southwest, there are 5 provinces. They have got twice the economy and a larger population than its northwest counterpart. So if you look at China as a whole, the southwest economic rise is something that hasn't caught the due attentions of people. We have got 4 provinces in this region with very good economic development momentum. So this is a hidden change in the economic landscape of China, which I will come back in more detail later. And we want to also promote technology cooperation among these provinces in southwest. The Yunnan province, in 2015, has the largest number of people living in poverty, but by the end of this year, all of them would be lifted out of poverty. Technology also played its role in poverty alleviation in recent years. In technology development, we have got several points to share with you. First of all, we have got systematic planning with a lot of policies, which I will not elaborate on one by one. And we also vigorously promoted the application of high-end technologies. So industrial development really leapfrogged during the 13th five-year program period. We have got 8 key industries, and we also have got 3 name cards. The green energy is one of our key name cards or key brand. The installed capacity of the province across the province would be about 100 million kilowatts. Actually, the number of the installed capacity only exceeded 100 million by the year of 1989. So our number is on par with the national total of 1989. We are now ranking the 6th in China, and our power generation is the 8th in China, and our population is the 12th largest in China. So we really have got a lot of clean energy, mainly hydropower, which accounts for more than 85%. And the electricity tariffs is also low. It's about 30 cents 1 kilowatt hours. So Henan, Shandong, Zhejiang provinces have seen some of the industries relocated to Yunnan because of the low electricity bill, as well as the fact that most of them are clean energy. Rongji is the biggest silicon producer, is now deploying its base in Yunnan. I was the mayor of Pujiang before this position. Recently, they had an investment promotion event for PV industries, and Mr. Ji from Hebei province said that maybe Pujiang would become the capital of PV of China. We have got 70 GW or 70 million kilowatts of capacity in construction or in operation. The total number for China is about 2 billion, so the number there is already close 1 billion. And in some places, they also have got more capacity over 100 million. So this is really a very large scale. We all talked about GWs, and we don't know its true sense of scale. Actually, in many countries, this is a number that is beyond imagination. Secondly, we also have got the Shaowan hydropower station. Its dam is more than 300 meters tall. It's a double curve dam, which is also a miracle in the construction of hydropower dams in the whole world. The second brand is Green Food brand. We have got tea, flowers, vegetables, fruits, coffee, Chinese herbal medicine, beef, pork, meat, etc. We have got very good agriculture sectors with distinctive features. President Xi drank the coffee from Yunnan, and President Xi said that he has been drinking coffee from Hainan province. He didn't even know that coffee production accounted for about 95% of the national total. The pu'er tea is something that is very famous among the Chinese people. Not long ago, I participated in this event that put the pu'er tea on the space vessels. And we are going to study whether the tea is going to change after its trip to outer space. And milk, yogurt are also some of our strong industries. I went to Dali. The Lhasa yogurt is the only yogurt bacteria strain that is cultivated domestically by China. And these are the cattle and the sheep herds that are cultivated locally by Yunnan. These are totally new breedings. It's like the beef from the Kobe of Japan. And thirdly is our healthy life brand. We have got smart tourism as well as distinctive towns, which have all developed very rapidly. We have got real-time broadcasting online of all the tourist destinations. You can download an app on your smartphone and see real-time image and videos of the tourist attractions in our province. Now, I would like to talk about our vaccines and the biomedicine industries. The Kunming city of our province is where the Biological Research Center of Academy of Biotechnologies Academy is located. And they have got a very large number of production and research of vaccines, and they have already completed phase 2 of clinical trials of COVID-19 vaccines, and they're contacting Brazil and Pakistan to talk about phase 3 clinical trials. One important approach for us is to introduce innovation resources. In the southwest region, we actually are in the middle range. We have got more university students than Guizhou and Guangxi. We also have got a campus of important research centers. However, despite these solid foundation, we still have got a gap compared with Sichuan and Chongqing. So we actively introduce innovation resources. In January of this year, I represented the local government to attend the national level meeting on science and technology. I think that the cooperation between Shanghai and Yunnan plays a very important role here. Shanghai and Yunnan has got very close ties of collaboration, and Shanghai is also the counterpart assistance city paired with Yunnan. A lot of Shanghai residents also went to Yunnan in the past to help its development. So we have got 4 technology centers in Honghe, Wenshan, Pu'er, and Shangri-La, which are funded as well as co-developed with Shanghai. And we also have got a Yunnan Innovation Research Center of Beihang in Yunnan, and it is devoted to scientific research. We will visit Zhejiang University, which set up a Honghe Research Institute in Yunnan. Shanghai Jiao Tong University also has got a research institute in Dali of our province. We also put a lot of efforts in attracting talents in order to develop the ecology discipline. So the president of the Yunnan province is an academician from Beijing University majoring in this discipline. Professor Wu said that the best talent will choose the best environment. Actually, the Kunming city, which is called the Spring City, is very attractive, and we were also considering establishing science cities in order to adjust the original real estate market development plans. The technology and in development in Yunnan cannot be an all-round champion, but we need to find one or two disciplines or areas where we can really be a pioneer. The hydropower is a very good example, and life science for the non-human primate animal research is a very good example. Academician Wei Qiyuan is a very good leading scientist that has produced world-class research results. Biodiversity. The Biodiversity Conference was scheduled to take place in Kunming this year, and President Xi Jinping has sent invitations to across the world. But of course, it depends on how COVID-19 is controlled. Astronomy, astrology, new materials are also some of the areas where we are very strong, and tobacco technologies are also one of our special areas. For astrology, we have already started the biggest mobile radio telescope project with 120 meters. This is a cooperation project with Chinese Academy of Sciences. We already have got some smaller scale radio frequency telescopes for deep space detection and explorations. We also have got a solar telescope in Hutian Lake. And the Botanic and Animal Research Institute are also based in Yunnan. These are national level research institutes. The province of Yunnan, when talk about it, people will think it's an underdeveloped one and lagging behind in technology innovation. But Yunnan was one of the first provinces to co-establish foundations with the National Nature Science Foundation. And we also put efforts on the commercialization of research results. So we have got a lot of municipal level as well as provincial level working stations for the foundation. Now let me talk about the prevention and control of the pandemic. During the Spring Festival of this year, before the lockdown of Wuhan, there were a lot of tourists. Actually, the number of tourists to Yunnan province was also very large in number. We ranked the 6th in terms of inbound tourists from Hubei province and Wuhan. I also visited Ruili. On the highway, I saw a lot of number plates from Hubei province and Wuhan city. So it really posed a great challenge for us. So we have got emergency response, research projects, vaccine development, as well as technologies for close contact tracing. We are now focusing on the prevention of imported cases. Recently, we had some people who smuggled from Vietnam, and the city of Ruili had a universal testing project. although the vaccines are still in the process of clinical trial, but based on phase 1 and phase 2 results, it is very safe and effective. And after it is approved, we will be able to use it on susceptible and vulnerable people or groups for emergency use. We have also greatly improved our technologies in prevention and control of COVID-19. And President Xi Jinping visited Yunnan recently, and he said very clearly that the manufacturing industries in the province needs to be upgraded, and we're at the low and middle end of the value chain. So all these needs to be upgraded. So we will implement these thoughts and push to the middle and high end of our manufacturing industries. We have to make up for our weaknesses and stick to an innovation-driven development approach. In my personal opinion, if we look into the future during the 14th five-year program period, Yunnan will become the second largest economy in the western region. We cannot outperform or grow larger than Sichuan, but I think that Shanxi province is already our target competitors or our goal, because we are now lagging behind Shanxi, but there is a lot of catch-up job to do. In terms of technology development, we will focus on the modern industrial chain to build a supporting infrastructures. We will produce a lot of pillar industries, and by the end of this year, the first batch of Yunnan Research Institutes or Yunnan provincial level in research institutes would be put in place, and they will represent the international standards in terms of their level of research and development. We will re-establish our innovation mechanisms. Silicon, for example, we want to move to higher-end silicon materials for electronics applications. The breakthroughs in these technologies is very important. We also have got a very small number of high technology companies. We only have got around 1,000 across province, but some cities have got 1,000 high-tech companies already. So we need to deepen the openness and the collaboration of technologies with other fellow regions in China. And our party secretary also planned to set up technology councils in places like Shenzhen and Shanghai. And their job, or the purpose of doing so, is to leverage on our experience of innovation over the past few years to introduce more actively innovation resources. Secondly, since we are talking about regional innovation, so technology resources are clustered in Kunming, Qujing, Yuxi, Honghe, Chuxiong, or the central part of Yunnan with relatively better developed economies. Their population account for 44% of the province's total and GDP 61%, but they concentrate 80% of innovation resources. All the national level research institutes are in Kunming, and all the laboratories that have been built are also in Kunming city. So these highland of innovation in the central region need to be better developed. We have got 16 city clusters, and many of them will focus on the transfer of technologies and the commercializations. But the most original and original innovations, most of them come from the central part of Yunnan province. Thirdly, we will increase our investment in R&D. We now ranked behind Sichuan, Shanxi, and Chongqing in terms of investment in R&D in absolute numbers. We have tried very hard to raise the number to 22 billion, but our GDP also grew, so the percentage point actually moved up very slowly. So we need to further increase our investment in R&D as a percentage of GDP. our current number is 22 billion. For Shanxi, the number is 53.7 billion. So there is still a quite big gap. They are almost our double. The same is true for Chongqing. And intensity, we are also behind Ningxia and Gansu, but their economy scale is smaller than ours, so it is not very comparable. So we will ask companies to increase their R&D investment. We will also ask research institutes, universities, and enterprises to have better coordination with government support along the way. Finally, I would like to talk about how to leverage our regional advantages, because openness and sharing is the theme of today's session. We are very close to the Southeast Asian countries, and we will become a hub with spillover effect to Southern and Southeastern Asia. So openness is our advantages, and we will increase our cooperation with neighboring Asian countries. Last year, our foreign trade was not that large in number. Many of the products are agricultural products. Flowers, for example, we produced 13.9 billion, about 2 for every people in the world. But this is not a product of high value. Structurally speaking, our trade with ASEAN countries accounts for the lion's share. In the first 8 months of this year, the total value of trade between China and ASEAN exceeded that between China and EU for the first time. So ASEAN will become China's biggest trade partners, and Yunnan enjoys geographic advantages as well as our distribution and sales channels that have already been established. In the first half of this year, China's investment in ASEAN countries account for 77% in all investment along the Belt and Road Initiative countries. So we have got Honghe, Kunming, Ruili, 3 FTZs that have already been approved. And a few words about new types of infrastructures, which also include infrastructures of science and technology. A lot of efforts have been made. By the end of this year, we will have got 9,000 kilometers of highways in operation. And next year, it will become the longest mileage in operation of highway in China. We are now second only to Guangdong. From Kunming to Singapore, we have got already a railroad in construction. So in the future, we can use the trains to depart from Kunming to Singapore and Malaysia. Well, in terms of technology, the Ministry of Science and Technology has also located the technology transfer center between China and South Asia, and China and ASEAN, and China and BRICS countries in Yunnan province. We will start a Smart Yunnan campaign or action plan in the hope of attracting talents and scientists from neighboring countries to set up their businesses and develop innovation here. We have set the goal of 100 people every year for 3 years with doctoral or above degrees. We want to attract them with our good environment and climate. So that brings me to the conclusion of my presentation. Last but not least, inspired by today's meeting, I think that the Yangtze River Delta region has got very well-developed cities who are co-innovating already. Then Yunnan province, Guizhou, Sichuan, and Chongqing in the southwest part of China should also follow suit. This will be our priority, and Yunnan will also play a leading role in such collaboration. Thank you. So any questions from the floor to Director Dong? So let me ask the question. Mr. Dong, in your presentation, you mentioned that you just established a center and a lot of people in the audience are holders of master or doctor degrees. So if they want to work there, what are the requirements? That center is for neighboring countries, for foreign countries, for Vietnam, Laos, India. Domestic talents enjoy another set of policy incentives. Okay, once again, I would like to thank Mr. Dong for your wonderful presentation.
Next speaker, or next two speakers, to talk to us online. The first one is Bruno Lamvin, who is the Executive Director of INSEAD Global Indices. And INSEAD is a world-renowned business school, and he is going to talk with us.
Hello everyone, ni hao. My name is Bruno Lanvin, and I am a director and co-founder of the Pujiang Institute. I am also the executive director for global indices at INSEAD, co-editor of the Global Innovation Index, and president of the Smart City Observatory. Technology, innovation, and talent are the three most important keys to unlocking our future and addressing the most vital challenges of our time, including climate change, growing inequalities, and diminished trust in our global institutions. The multilateral system that helps the world as a whole to benefit from open trade and international cooperation is now under threat. The COVID-19 pandemic is still very much with us, and it is still too early to assess how durably it will affect the world economy. It is clear, however, that even if the health crisis comes to an end in 2021, with the help of a vaccine, for instance, we are still only seeing the first signs of its economic and social aftermath. Company failures, massive unemployment, and social tensions are bound to grow. Cities have crucial roles to play in this new context. The proposition that I shall try to articulate in the next 10 minutes or so is that cities could be the forerunners of a new kind of globalization, driven by innovation and cooperation around a set of shared objectives for the planet. To do this, I shall explore 4 points. Point number 1, innovation in the 21st century. What did we learn? Point number 2, cities in the 21st century. Where are they heading? Point number 3, what did COVID change? And point number 4, what is the new globalization and how could cities lead it? So let's start with point number 1, innovation in the 21st century. For the last 14 years, we have been benchmarking the innovation performance of over 130 countries around the world. This was done through the publication of the Global Innovation Index Annual Report, GII, which has now become a reference for many governments and leading businesses around the world. What did we learn from this massive amount of data collected and analysis carried out? In 2020, the top performers of GII were Switzerland, followed by Sweden, the USA, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Denmark. China was 14th. The top of the ranking indicates that while major countries with big universities and large companies, like the US and the UK, retain an innovation advantage, smaller economies, Switzerland, Singapore, Nordic countries, seems to be able to rely on other types of advantages. The stability of the top that we see in these indices means that at the global level, when we compare national innovation performance to national income per capita, we see that there is a strong and positive correlation between the two. Rich countries generally perform better than poor countries in the area of innovation. Yet, it is important to consider how countries are positioned vis-à-vis the black regression line on this diagram. Those that are above the line perform better than what their GDP per capita would suggest. China, with its rank of 14th, is clearly above that line. Smaller economies, Switzerland, Nordic countries, Singapore, perform highly on the innovation side, even though they do not have the major universities, companies, or public resources that larger economies have. This shows that agility and strong performance across all dimensions of innovation competitiveness are key to innovation success. Small economies are also happen economies because generally they don't have a choice. This is a critical ingredient of innovation success. One key message that emerges clearly for all types of economies is that even if market size and risk-taking financing are critical elements for innovation, the four fundamental ingredients for innovation success are education, technology, leadership, and openness. In such a context, cities have a critical role to play, and this will be the second part of my presentation. Let us look at the performances of cities across three global indices. GII, the Global Innovation Index, which ranks innovation clusters. GTCI, the Global Talent Competitiveness Index, which ranks cities in terms of talent. And SCI, the Smart Cities Index, which ranks smart cities along local perceptions. STI clusters. Local dynamics show that the global landscape of innovation is changing. The top 100 science, technology and innovation clusters identified in GII 2020 are located in 26 economies, of which 6 are middle-income economies: Brazil, China, India, Iran, Russia, and Turkey. Leading STI clusters are number 1, Tokyo, Yokohama, number 2, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Guangzhou, and number 3, San Jose, San Francisco. This changing landscape is completed by the main lessons we see emerging from GTCI. In GTCI 2020, we covered 155 cities, ranked in terms of talent competitiveness. US cities show strong talent competitiveness. Large cities have a critical mass advantage, and cities with a proven ability for future readiness tend to dominate the ranking and emerge as global talent hubs, which is a critical factor for innovation success. SCI 2020, what are the main lessons that can be drawn from the experience of smart cities? The IMD SUTD Smart City Index monitors the actual development of smart cities in all parts of the world and draws strategic lessons for what works and what doesn't work. The index, created in 2019, is mostly perception-based. It underlines the importance of thinking smart cities as organic entities, where technology needs to be balanced with human aspects. SCI 2020 shows that smart cities have generally been better at addressing COVID-related challenges. Altogether, these three indices, GII, GTCI, and SCI, converge towards three main conclusions. Number 1, the dynamics of cities makes them natural hubs for talent and innovation. Number 2, the global hierarchy between cities can be very different from that of countries. Number 3, within countries, cities compete with each other. Then an interesting question to explore is, how did COVID-19 change the global city and innovation landscape? This is the third point of my presentation. It is, of course, too early to draw the lessons from COVID. However, it is clear that we are at a critical juncture where the sanitary crisis is still very much with us, while the economic and social crisis that it will entail has hardly started. The research mentioned earlier shows that the cities that have been able to combine technologies, leadership, and the strong culture of living and acting together should be able to better withstand the most damaging effect of these crises. What did COVID change, and how is the global innovation ecosystem itself changing as a result? Because of its unprecedented and global nature, the COVID crisis has challenged some well-established habits and opened new doors for work, for talent, and for innovation. The rapid development of teleworking and teleconferencing is only the tip of the iceberg. Such practices existed before COVID, they have just been accelerated. In education, the increasing use of online courses will lead to greater levels of cooperation between universities, linked by the electronic mobility of their faculty. Co-branding and multi-sectoral combinations of degrees, for example, management and engineering, will become the new normal. Similarly, increasing reliance granted by employers and employees to lifelong learning, constant reskilling, will become the new normal. Such new habits will not disappear after COVID, but again, they are only the tip of the iceberg. Limitations to international travel and migrations will be an obstacle to cooperative innovation, both for universities and for corporations. The underlying trends toward delinking among national economies and nationalistic postures has also been present for some time. The COVID crisis has reinforced them. Why does it all that make cities global players? This is the last point of my presentation. The pandemic has brought to the fore the tendencies of some players to retrench from global cooperation. Already threatened before the crisis, multilateralism has continued to suffer, and nationalistic policies have found new strength in the use of words such as resilience. In the area of innovation, where openness is key to success, this raises new issues regarding the global economy system that may be needed. Technology and innovation will suffer. As research will become more nationalistic, duplication will ensue, financial resources will be wasted, and international inequalities will increase. What can be done to address these negative trends? This is where cities have critical roles to play. We see more and more cities stepping to the plate of global challenges. One example is that of environmental concerns. When some large nation states, like Brazil or the US, for example, hinted at withdrawing from the Paris Agreement, cities reaffirmed their commitment to reduce carbon emissions. Both as talent hubs and as natural test beds for artificial intelligence solutions, cities are called to play a bigger role on the global scene. Through innovation, openness and cross-border cooperation and involving younger generation, they can contribute to a much needed new globalization. Younger generations look for ways to make a meaningful contribution to society and change it for the better. But you cannot change what you cannot measure. This is why global metrics matter. This is why they need to be constantly improved. I look forward to working with all of you to that noble end. 谢谢。
好，谢谢。我们下边呢，就是再看一下最后一位嘉宾。
The last speaker
联合国人均
is Mr. Marco Camilla, Senior Economist of and Interregional Advisor from Knowledge and Innovation Branch of UN Habitat.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. My name is Marco Camilla from UN Habitat, Knowledge and Innovation Branch. So it's a pleasure to be part of this Pujiang Innovation Forum and provide a presentation on innovative cities through wisdom, collaboration, and sharing. So let me share my presentation. So I'm going to talk about urban issues and how urban issues can be solved through challenge awards, entrepreneurship, and urban innovation. First, let me explain about UN Habitat mandate. UN Habitat is one of the main custodians of the Sustainable Development Goals number 11, that is focused on sustainable cities and communities. We also implement the new urban agenda. The new urban agenda are the guidelines that were approved in Quito, Ecuador in 2016 during the Habitat 3 conference. And we do the implementation of these frameworks through additional platforms agreements like the Paris Climate Change, approved in Paris in 2015, the Sendai Framework on Disaster Risk Reduction, and then the Addis Ababa Action Agenda that is focused on financing for development. So let me start with a major issue that has to do with urban development. And this may seem unrelated, but is closely linked to the prosperity of cities. So this graph is showing the labor productivity growth across regions from year 2000 to 2017. And as you see, the region that has been consistently increasing beyond all the other regions is developing Asia. Developing Asia is composed of all developing countries, but includes China, includes the new Asian tigers. And those cities has been improving in productivity, and also what is called in economics the total factor productivity. That is how that is actually is a proof of how cities combine capital and labor in a better way to have higher productivity. So that means if developing Asia is improving in labor productivity, that means they are doing something that other regions or countries are not doing better. So this is something we have to analyze. I think there are many elements and many reasons how to explain this performance, but one of the major components is urban development. The urban development is one of the key elements explaining productivity of cities and countries. So even though if we disagree on what are the elements of productivity in cities, we are going to agree that the logistic, that the urban layout is extremely important in order to facilitate the production of goods and the mobility of people and services. So how we identify, how we improve the urban layout, how do we improve the urban development? One of the ways to do this is through something that we call the challenge funds. Challenge funds is not something new, has been around for a while, and recently supported by major foundations, major think tanks in the developed and also in the developing world. It's one of the ways to find solutions to major issues, in this case, urban issues. So we also at UN Habitat, we implement different challenge prizes, challenge awards. So we have the Dubai International Award, we have the UN Habitat Scroll of Honors, and we also have the different prizes that we provide during our conference, the World Urban Forum, that is celebrated every 2 years. But identifying and providing the prizes to the best performance cities is not enough. Something that is important to connect this to action is to link the Challenge Award with entrepreneurship. And for this, let me explain about entrepreneurship and how this can be contribute to urban innovation. So entrepreneurship is a combination of three major elements. First is the basic science. These are the inventions that are done in universities. In universities studying, for example, physics, for example, theoretical technologies. And this basic science is applied to specific problems in the Faculty of Engineering. So we have the science. The science is a platform to implement research and development. And then from research and development, we scale up and commercialize the different process. And this last part of the entrepreneurship phases is done usually by entrepreneurs that get money and have an idea and invest in ways to solve a problem. So these entrepreneurial activities requires an entrepreneurship ecosystem. And the ecosystem has three major parts: is innovation, the entrepreneurial talent composed of management and labor, and also the finance. We see this ecosystem is almost complete in places like Silicon Valley, Israel, or Singapore. It needs a little bit of further development in Brazil, Chile, and Mexico, and it requires more upgrading in places like Kenya, as an example of sub-Saharan Africa. But one important element on how to promote entrepreneurship is to promote interaction among people. And what we see is that this is a research done by the World Bank on the ecosystem in New York City, and they track people from 2003, 43 people, and they asked them how they were getting and expanding their networks. And what we see from 2003 to 2013, from 43 people, they were able to expand the network to more than 2,000. So this network of people and potential allies and partners is translated into productive activities. So as we see the map in New York, we find incubators, we find a number of venture capital firms. So we also find a number of startups. So, but this is not only in New York. We have a project in the city of Shenzhen analyzing the innovation and the urban planning. And we found that the urban planning in the city of Shenzhen facilitates the interaction of people because of the mobility, the agile system that connects people and goods and make production and make everything easier. This system is similar to the one that is present in Shanghai, in China, where also there is a strong hub on innovation that is supported by the urban planning. So how a city identify the main issues? So in order to identify the main issues, so we need to base these findings in research. And something what we do at UN Habitat, combining normative and operational work, is that we also look at closely and we produce evidence in order to guide our interventions. And so we have identified a number of urban issues in cities that need to be addressed and can be addressed by entrepreneurship, by challenge awards. So number one is unplanned urbanization. So this is a project that we have with New York University, and we see the planned areas in the world are decreasing. They were 80% before 1990, but after 1990, less than 50%. So planning as a component of new cities is really diminishing and is affecting the layout of the cities. So number two, on informality, inequality, and housing markets. So we see that informal settlements and slums should be just a temporary feature of the cities, but they become permanent because they coexist with the formal areas. And we find this in cities in sub-Saharan Africa. Actually, this paper is analyzing Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. But this is a feature that we find in Latin America and also in South Asia. So how to reduce informality, how to reduce inequality, and how to provide housing markets is another urban issue. Number three is the mobility of goods and people. Something that we observed is that in developed countries, because the transport system is better and more advanced, and you have also very different transports system integrated, the bicycle, the train, the buses. So it's possible for people to travel to more places in one day. So this graph comes from CAF, Development Bank for Latin America. It shows that in average, somebody living in a developed country has 3.6 trips a day, while in Latin America it's only 2. So that means the opportunities, the chances for people to get together are reduced, and therefore the opportunity to implement better entrepreneurial ideas is also reduced. The number 4 is the human capital. We see this is a comparison between different regions, East Asian Pacific, Latin America and the Caribbean, Middle East and North Africa, South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa. So we see that the youth literacy rates are uneven among these regions, from 98.8 literacy rate in East Asian Pacific to 70.8 in Sub-Saharan Africa. So this large gap has an impact on the productivity of the city in terms of design not just of new companies or new entrepreneurial activities, but probably design of public policies as well. So this is a major urban issue that also is waiting to be solved. Then we have number 5, financing basic services. As you see, the productivity at cost of cities are concentrated in 2 kilometers, 3 kilometer radius around the central business district. So that means the wealth and the opportunities are concentrated in a small area around the main hubs in the cities. So that means cities need to find out how to support settlements that are farther from the central business district, because it's more expensive to provide services to them. But in the same way, for private investment, for developers, investing in the core of the cities or investing in the periphery are different in terms of the rentability of the different projects. So from number 1 to number 5, these are not the only urban issues, but those are some of the urban issues policymakers and investors can consider as an opportunity for different business endeavors in the city. So let me explain a number of projects that we are implementing following this scheme linking challenge awards with entrepreneurship and with urban innovation. One of the projects that we worked a couple of years ago is the Smart Cities Master Plan for Rwanda. So Rwanda is a country that has been consistently working on improving the scientific development of the cities and the integration of the different companies. So in order to develop an ecosystem of private sector to support basic services. So we provide with this project the smart governance and planning. We also provide a proposal on smart and efficient services and utilities, and we localize this innovation for social and economic development. Another project that we have is, this is very interesting, this is with Microsoft. This is a software that probably you know, this is called Minecraft, and this is a 3D. This virtual reality software allows to imagine how the city will look when we renew neighborhoods. So with public sector and residents and different stakeholders, we get together and we design the city based on what the people want. And we find this very interesting in terms of the dialogue that comes out from these discussions, showing how the city can look not just in terms of the aesthetics, but a city better connected and more productive with mixed use. We have implemented more than 100 projects in 30 countries using this approach. In the area of mobility, we also developing application for smartphones using big data and identifying the future demand in the corridors, in the roads, and then this allows to identify the bottlenecks, the traffic, and design better planning with more efficient integration of the different roads and highways to make the city more productive. This is another project on electric vehicles, recycling parts of all vehicles and making low carbon efficient transport systems. In Egypt, in El Alamein, we were asked to produce a plan for a new city. We did this 3 years ago, and 2 years ago, the project was approved, and the city is already building a new city in El Alamein. So this is a port in the Mediterranean where they are not only building residents and commerce and industry, but they are integrating this with information technologies and frontier technologies to convert the city into a major economic pole in Egypt and in the Mediterranean. In Saudi Arabia, we were asked to provide a diversification project as well as a new urban planning for a number of cities at the national level. And we work with more than 12 cities in Saudi Arabia, providing a proposal to diversify the economy. So cities are currently implementing this project in the areas of municipal finance, urban planning, and also productive capacity. This has been supported by the central government and all major city leaders in Saudi Arabia. It's a very successful project. So in conclusion, what is important in order to promote urban innovation is to link three things. First is to identify the urban issues. And we all know the urban issues, we all know what the problems are in cities, but what we need is a methodology to identify these issues and identify the solutions. So in order to do this, one way, one method to arrive into good solutions is to implement challenge prices or challenge funds. Challenge prices, giving prices to people that provide solutions, and providing small funds as a reward for the effort, and also supporting them to convert this idea, this solution, into entrepreneurial ideas. entrepreneurial solutions. So for this, strengthening entrepreneurial ecosystem is important to have continuity. But not just that, once we have the challenge prices, once we have the entrepreneurship, we need also the urban innovation. And the urban innovation is how we take all these ideas and we convert into bankable projects. We provide this systematically to cities and to support the provision of local infrastructure, basic services by using entrepreneurship, private sector, and also to integrate this with public finance. So these are the three components of an urban innovation system. So thank you very much, and we continue the discussion. Thank you.
谢谢卡米亚，这个非常
Thank you,
有质量的这
Mr.
个报告。
Kamiya, for your high quality
这
presentation.
个我们也非常感谢
And
各位在座
I would
的
also like to thank all of you
听
in
众
the
啊，这个
audience.
我们还要感谢在线上的一些观众。
I also want to thank all the audience
今天的话呢，我
online.
们这个报告会啊，就到这里。
This
那
is
么
the
也
end
欢
of
迎
this
大家
forum.
明年的话呢，应该明年在10月份左右吧。
We
这个来。
are looking forward to meeting you
5月份对吧？明年5月份左右对。
at
再来
the
参
Pujiang
加
Innovation Forum in May
再次感
next
谢大家，
year.
谢谢啊。
Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
明年应该是5月份。